a lot of families in the Bay Area, a steady job still isn't enough to keep up with their financial obligations. A new report from the United Way Suncoast puts numbers to the squeeze. It's called the ALICE report, and that's short for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. In other words, people who work and earned above the poverty line but still are struggling to cover the basics. The report finds that a family of 4 with 2 children in childcare now needs more than $106,000 a year just to get by in this region. Compare that to Florida's median household income of about $77,000 a year. Statewide, the report says that nearly half of all households, 47%, fall short of affording that basic budget. And the cost of living is steepest right here in the Tampa Bay region. Pinellas County has one of the highest survival budgets in the state. Housing is a big piece of that equation. It's the same pain point for really our entire region. And Courtney, I'd like to start by asking you to explain for the viewer at home who doesn't know what the ALICE report is. Tell us what that is.
So you mentioned ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed Neighbors. So when I think of that as people that we know, that we see every single day. They are our neighbors. Sometimes they're our coworkers. Teachers are ALICE. Nurses are ALICE. Our grocery store baggers are ALICE, right? These are people that are hardworking community members who are struggling to make ends meet. And I think something that's important when we talk about ALICE is that we're not talking about trips and cars, we're talking about basic necessities. We call it a survival budget. So when you mentioned that 47% of the state is below that ALICE level, 46% here in the Suncoast region, we're talking about just paying their bills. And so for us, when we think about our ALICE neighbors, they're just one unexpected bill from real financial crisis.
When you look at the data, there's so much in there. Yes. Share with us some of the data that struck you the most.
So as you mentioned, Pinellas County is particularly high, the second highest survival budget needed in the entire state. So a family of 4, so that's 2 adults and 2 young children in Pinellas County has to make over $114,000 just to cover the costs of living. But what we also see is our elderly population is really struggling. They are ALICE, and we see every single year we do free tax preparation through our WEDU program. We have this aging population coming to us saying, I need to work to live, but how much can I make before it impacts my Social Security?
How is the ALICE report data used by other organizations in the region? This is something that's very collaborative.
Absolutely. Something that makes me proudest of United Way and United Way Suncoast is our ability to collaborate and convene, and that's really the spirit of the ALICE report. We create this data, we collect this data, and then we make it into bite-sized, digestible information so that not just United Way, this is not a challenge that nonprofits can solve alone. We give this to employers, we raise this with policymakers and politicians. Our public policy committee is very much in this and how we can partner together to collaboratively solve this problem.
And as I look to the rest of the panel, no one is really surprised by these numbers that families are struggling. Allie, how do you see this play out in the real estate market?
Sure. We absolutely saw a boom during the pandemic. And unfortunately, this is a very desirable place to live. So people continue to come to the area. More money continues to come to the area, and it makes the prices go up. Even though we have more inventory right now on the market than we have in quite some time, there's still a shortage of housing really happening. And so the prices have not come down. Even though we saw those surges in 21, 22, they've still maintained, even though we have more inventory on the market. So it's been very interesting to watch. But when you talk about Pinellas County, the condos have had a significant decrease in pricing, separate from overall single family and townhome, but the more high-rise condo communities because of the regulations after the Surfside collapse.
After the Surfside collapse and the whole issue of the repairs that have to be done. And that was a starting point for many young couples, young professionals in owning their first home. They would go the condo route. And it's been difficult to see those prices go up. In terms of policy leaders, the two strategists in the room, Jake and Vic. How should people be looking at this data when they're looking at policies? I know that we've all talked about property taxes and whether or not they will be repealed. Victor, I'd like to start with you.
Well, we're going to talk about a little bit about the property tax amendment on the coming up later in the show.
The next segment, yeah.
But the first thing that's going to get slashed, everybody agrees 100%, is going to be the social services that people need to survive. I don't know if Goodwill receives any government help at all from the county or the city. But, that's the sad part about this whole thing, that we're going to have to face reality here coming up a few months in November when we have the election, because social services do provide a very serious need to a lot of people who need help.
And United Way Suncoast does provide funding to several organizations in the community.
Right.
Jake, how do you see this data coming on the Alice report?
Sure. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I live in the world too. We all see how much it costs to live, and we all understand how much it costs housing. Everything else has gone up in the Tampa Bay area. But let me give you the opposite opinion of my friend Vic over here. Is that if this property tax goes through, that is a lot of people who will get a meaningful cut from their yearly budget that's pulled directly out of their bank account. For a lot of people, that might be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a year on a median house, $400,000 house. This is a meaningful cut if the property tax amendment goes through. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal that can add into some of these numbers that you see, because every penny adds up, and so that might be a direct way to give money back to people.